Alright, fellow Triumph lovers, I have something to show you. It took me a little bit longer than I expected to, but the surgery was successful. I would like to introduce you to probably the first 900 without a transmission. It is a beautiful, beautiful piece. This is the upper that I just cut off of it, yeah, with the alternator housing and everything else. You can see how it used to be right there. Anyway, with that out of the way, what a beautiful engine. This is exactly what I was going for. Almost looks a little bit like a Geo Metro Suzuki style 3-cylinder engine. I've got it attached to the this cable right here just to hold it straight up and down in the vertical axis, because I wanted to show you guys I'm actually going to square off the bottom of the crankcase, one for more oil capacity, and two, I don't want the motor to look like it's leaning over when it's in its final application. I want it standing up just like it is. But there it is, ladies and gentlemen. It is a beautiful engine. I'm holding my entire laptop here, so you'll have to bear with me. I'm having a hard time aiming. So, you can see right here, this is where the primary drive used to come through. And there's the primary takeoff sprocket that is directly on the cam. So, since I'm not using that as a power takeoff anymore, we're going to have to figure out something a little bit different as far as the output shaft goes. As an extra little note, I wanted to ask you guys if you have any idea if it might be feasible to use the counter shaft, the counterbalancer shaft, as an actual PTO, because it's mounted in such large, heavy ball bearings, and it would take quite a bit of thrust load, but as you can see, there is actually a bearing in each end, and on this end, if I was to remove this is probably the simplest shaft to do any modifications to, and I might be able to actually add on to the end of this, weld or tap it and machine on an extra power takeoff that actually comes out right here that would end up powering my my propeller speed reduction unit. So I'd really like to hear from you guys whether or not you think it might have enough strength. First of all, it's over an inch thick, and it's made to spin at 12,000 RPMs. So, I mean, I don't see any reason why it would be a weak link as a power takeoff. As long as I'm not putting, the full 100 horsepower through it, which I never will. This motor's probably only going to turn 7,000 RPMs in the bike. Not in the bike. In the ground effect craft that I'm building, that it's going into. So anyway, I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. I really appreciate you giving me some input here. This is the first time I've ever cut into a motor like this and gotten rid of all this stuff. The only other way I can use power takeoff is the counterclockwise turning crankshaft itself, but you also got to remember that there is no actual ball bearings on a crank. So if I am to use this as a power takeoff, it's going to have to just be a coupler going to an externally mounted bearing that maybe I can fit. Instead of putting the cover back here, modify a different plate and mill out a piece that'll actually have a bearing centered in it, or even use a self-centering bearing. Anyway, those are my two options for power takeoff. I'd really like to hear from you guys which one you think might be a better option. Thanks.